Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here. This is the second day of our educational part of Linoleum Animation Festival. With us today is German filmmaker and animator Malte Stein. Finally, he arrived to Kyiv. Thank you. Malte has been a part of our competition programs, I think, from the beginning with his first thing. Thing is the title of the film. No, first film, probably. And I'm really glad to host him in Kyiv these days. Today we're gonna talk about intuitive story development for animated comics and films. And if you have any questions, we will have Q&A after the session. Якщо вам потрібен переклад, будь ласка.
If you need interpretation, could you please take the headsets in the end of the hall?
I think we can start.
Okay. Cool. And yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the nice invitation. I'm very happy to be here. It's very interesting. And yeah, I will talk a bit about story development or storytelling in general, and a bit about my method, how I actually approach a subject or also a topic to make finally a story out of it. And I have some method I will tell you. And also, I will, based on that, I will show you some comics which I did, and also some excerpts of short films. And I will talk a bit about the background, how I made the films, and technically, and also how I developed the story, of course. So this is Marcel Proust. I'm not really a big fan of his writings, but I like the picture very much because I think when we are able to write a story or to write our situation down and we are reflecting on our situation in a creative way, then actually it gives life a kind of dignity, and it's a very positive way to deal with reality, and also a very playful way, and even if we are in a very miserable situation, we feel like very good. And actually, I think I feel like this even if I sleep under the bridge, because I can write about my situation and yeah, and can reflect on that. Because I'm coming from the writing, I want to tell you a bit about that. So I started to write short stories when I was a teenager, and I won also a youth literature prize in Berlin, and that was very astonishing because I never had like big ambitions about that. And then I did also a lot of comic stories since I was in primary school, and I developed that always. And I was always like into also like doing short films, very trashy ones, and also later on I studied script writing and I worked for the television. As a script writer for TV series for children, and then I studied also animation, and all my films, they are also, I wrote also the stories about my films, and so I'm like pretty much into writing. And so, and when I think about how I actually develop my stories, I figure out that I have actually a kind of technique or method which I'm often using, and all my stories, or most of my stories, they are based on the praxis of the creative writing. So that means like practically that I have sometimes some periods in my life where I just write something down, and this is the things that I'm writing down are not like formal notes of daily routine or something like this. The creativity about it is to write, to exaggerate and to find metaphors, and to deal with reality in a very playful way, and yeah, but at the same time to stay as genuine as possible. So the things that I'm writing down actually are, of course, impressions. So often I find it important also to have a focus on our environmental events. That means, for example, I live in Berlin. This is a place which is under constant status of changing, actually, and I live there since more than 30 years. And when I go there around, I have a lot of associations in every corner, and then I can think about what is actually my personal relationship to my environment there, and what happens actually to me, or what does it do with my consciousness if these environmental changes. And so yeah, there are actually coming a lot of thoughts up. What I find also very interesting is to describe characteristics of persons. That's more, for example, more psychological approach. Just an example, when sometimes I meet people that I feel like they are uncanny or something. I really don't want to get in touch with them, actually. But the interesting thing is that when I learn better about the person, about the background, the childhood, or what the person is struggling about, then it actually becomes very interesting and also beautiful at the end. Also, of course, I love to discover contradictions. For example, some people say something very about morality, and then I discover that sometimes those people just act in a completely the opposite way, actually. So something like that. And what I find also interesting is dialogues, which I hear about how people talk. For example, in conflict situations, how they solve a conflict, or how they let it also escalate, how they react to each other. Another thing also I find interesting is the colloquial way how people talk. People have sometimes a very funny way of using words, and yeah, it's more about dialects or something also that's included in that. And yeah, it can be like, it's like us, that the language is stylized, and that's, for me, it's something very important also when I write dialogues, because they become then very alive and vivid. So when I'm practicing this creative writing, let's say there's a period of time, like 1 year, and at the end, actually, I have a, oops, what's that? I'm sorry. Of course, I write also expressions, and for example, strong emotions. This is like the madness of our feelings, and sometimes we have feelings or emotions that we know they're wrong, but I think that in the situations that we feel those emotions, they are very true in a way, even if we know they're wrong. But I think it's very important to keep them also and to write them down, that we can later on reflect about them and to understand that it was really wrong, but also they become like a memorial about something. And actually it helps also to understand maybe a lot of things that go wrong in the world, because our emotions are sometimes very, how to say, impulsive. You know? What I find also very interesting are daydreams. To keep them, those are, for example, situations in which sometimes we imagine situations that we would like to experience, or that we are very afraid of, and those are actually just fragments without any frame of a story or something, but they are just like fantasies that come in our mind very spontaneously, and sometimes they are so vivid because they express something about our wishes or our fears or something, and I just keep them because those are in this situation, in this very immediate situation of imagination. They're very like vivid and true. What I find also interesting are memories. when I think about my memories, my past, then I think that we all often, it can happen that we have a tendency to summarize our life into highlights that happened, and we start to identify ourselves as that. That gives us like a meaning or something, or a statement how we see ourselves in the society or something. But by that, we are blending out actually the boringness of daily routine, and and so they're not collaborating 100% with the full truth, I think. But it doesn't matter, because I think the most important is that we can identify ourselves as that, and that we also know how those situations feel. That's mostly important. What I find also very important to keep are dreams that we have at night. Sometimes I think when we remember them, sometimes I think I dream things like situations which I actually experience also in the real life, but in the dream I experience them again, but with different images and in different characters or creatures. And so the dreams also, they create symbols and metaphors. And I think when we find a metaphor or a symbol which fits in our story, it increases the story into a mystical and also a philosophical level. So what I wanted to say before already, when I write all those things down after a while or after 1 year, I get a collection of ideas, and this is a true treasure, because all those things that I wrote down in this collection are written in very authentic situations in which I felt like everything. I was 100% into these issues or these topics, and they are very authentic and yeah, very. And they give me, and to have this collection also is like a guarantee that that I have a lot of things that are like true, or let's say, yeah, like this. And then when I'm at the situation that I want to write a story, I have like an idea, just a rough frame, plot or something, then I sometimes have the problem that I'm not really into the situation that I want to describe. And then I start to research in this collection, and I often find something that fits in a strange way into that. So I take, then I can take some fragments that I have there in this collection. I bring them together, and they are becoming like it's like a puzzle. And all this process is suddenly very unpredictable and very exciting. And the results are mostly very convincing me suddenly, because even if the end story is a very fictional story, but there are a lot of things in there with which I'm like can identify myself very much, and those are things that I really believe and I really feel, and I really know what they are about. So, and yeah, so that's kind of my method, how I start to make a story. What do we do with stories? We can write a book, but probably nobody will read that. So I think that we are more up to look at pictures, and the next easiest way to process them in a further way is to do comics. I think, and to make a comic has a lot of advantages. It's a very good practice in improving the collaboration between character design, dialogues, and storyline, and also a good practice in giving the characters individual life with expressive mimic and body language, and also a good practice in staging a story. So there are a lot of ways to tell a story with a, let's say, you show images, you have a voiceover, or you just base or you base the story just on dialogues, which is a more developed way of storytelling, I think. But also like non-verbal, which is also like a big challenge to do that. It's also a very good practice to draw main poses, which is a very basic discipline when you make 2D drawn animation also. And at the end, of course, it's satisfying because you get really fast a result, and you can show that to friends, or you can also shock your relatives or something like that. I did comics since as I said, since I was in primary school. Later, when I was a teenager, I was a bit like, let's say, like dirty punk or something. But I had no inhibitions to deal with topics that were kind of painful, like sexuality and trouble, drugs, and also like. It was for me a way to express dark features of life, which troubled me in that way, very much in that time very much. And so this is just I show you some examples. It's from 2002. In this very short story appears this character the very first time, and I used this character with long nose later. For my first animation film, the graduation film Blue Dream, and this is also this is like a voiceover which is put on these images, and it's like a poem about disturbed self-confidence, and yeah, maybe how to find a solution of that. This is a story also from 2002. It's kind of funny story, and it was published in an underground magazine. I got like funny feedback, so I show you just the first pages because it's a very dirty story. And this is a comic I made in 2003, and this is also actually based on some true events, partly just. But for example, when we are kids, sometimes we meet like other kids. We think they are really cool, but then we discover they're like very violent and crazy. And this was like a experience that haunted me a lot, and I just had to include that also in the story, and it was like kind of important for me to do that. But this is also more like a bit also funny, but yeah, very dark. And I made this film, this comic, in a time where I had no flat in that time, and I squatted an attic to do this comic, and then I was kicked out, and I was just in the halfway. The comic was just half finished, and that was so depressing that I promised myself never to get in such fucked up situation. So I have to say that the creativity and the storytelling also helped me to get out of bad situations and to do something good with my life. And this is a comic I made in 2012. I like it very much because I made all the comic in one night, and that was like a workshop which was called 24-hour comic workshop. And the idea about it was that we gathered some comic nerds together in one room, and the task was to create 24 comic pages in 24 hours. So we sit there the whole night, and then you have really this concentrated situation, and you really have to do something and to invent a story. And actually, it was a proof for me that it's possible that we can actually, I guess, every day we can create something like a story. And there came so many fantasies up, and we are always like in the subconsciousness, there's always something cooking, and when you have this, it's like a ventil, and then you can just, suddenly you do really a lot. And then, but the main importance is probably to create an environment where you really take that 100% serious, and you just do that, and also with other people. And to do a workshop is a very good way to do that. And yeah, I love this very much. And there are also some parts in which I'm using also now for my current film. This is Blue Dream. This is my graduation film from 2013. And this film is also based actually on a comic which I made in 2007 or 8. I don't remember so exactly. I made the film like very chaotic actually. I used the comic as a storyboard because I was too lazy to make a storyboard again. And so the film appears a bit static also. I have sometimes the impression now. And but it was like, it's not a perfect film, but I got like very much, I learned a lot how to make a film. I went through all the painful process to finish something, and it's all drawn on paper, very very analog. And I want to show you short a little part of it. I hope the sound works. No, it does not work. Can we do something about the sound?
Bleib wie du bist, baby.
Ah, now it works. Okay, but I have to turn it up. Okay, hopefully. So maybe we have to turn it up a bit. Okay.
Bleib wie du bist, baby. Was kickst denn so?
Auch die längsten Nächte nehmen irgendwann mal ein Ende. Und so, am nächsten Morgen,
Muss das Teil hier unterm Tisch rumkriechen?
das mit dir und Sandy, das verletzt irgendwie meine Gefühle. So eine Erniedrigung. Bloß abhauen hier, ey. Die Wochen vergehen. Unser Freund, der kleine Parasit, ist wieder in seine Stinkbude zurückgekehrt. Doch immer noch plagt ihn verzehrender Liebeskummer. Ich komme einfach nicht über den Berg. Verdammt! Wer stört mich denn beim Nachdenken? Micha! Alter Sack.
Wollt mal sehen, ob du noch lebst. Und Schluck.
Hey. Später im Park findet unser Freund, der kleine Parasit, endlich Zerstreuung. Mit seinen alten Kumpels. Micha und Spritti Sabine.
Mit Juni hab ich gefickt. Auch mit Kalle. Der kann ficken nur allerhand.
Oh nee, da kommt keiner.
Total besoffen.
Wir singen rot! Wir singen weiß! Wir singen rot, weiß, FPU!
So this the story about the Blue Dream is for me actually a kind of like a documentary film in a way. And that's because all those characters and how they talk and stuff like that. I didn't invent that. It's more like based on experience because I had a lot of opportunities to observe people like that because I grew up in a social environment like that. When I was a kid, I was also surrounded by like drug addicts and people that just throw away their life and don't give a shit for anything. And so this film is a kind of humorous way of processing those experiences. But it's all right, so don't worry. And actually, I started to write actually a kind of very serious story about it. It was more real, and but then I got like the idea to give the main character this tender physiognomy with a long nose and this tender little creature. And I like that very much because it expressed actually this contradiction also that these people sometimes are like they have to pretend like being very, very tough. But when you learn better about them, then you discover that they're actually very poor people, actually, that never really experienced love or something like that. And so by that, it became very perfect for making a comic out of it for me, because it became suddenly also kind of funny, but also very tragic in the same way. I like that very much. The next film I want to talk about is my film Flood. It's from 2018. And before I tell you about how I did it, I will show you also a very short an excerpt of it. Sound works again. Ja.
Der See kann ruhig kommen. Ich habe an alles gedacht. Auch an Klopapier. Schließlich sollte der Anstand bewahrt werden, auch wenn die Welt unterzugehen droht. Vorräte sind reichlich da. Doch beim Essen wird nicht gesprochen. Und Ellenbogen vom Tisch.
Du kleine Ratte! Jetzt bist du dran!
Der hat seine Mutter gekillt.
Das ist zu viel! Nimm die Tablette.
Oh nein, das wollte ich nicht.
to talk about the story of flood. Right. This is from. No. 1 second. Okay. I have to start actually with a very different story because after I had my graduation, I started to develop a story for 1 year, and I was very ambitious, and I loved the story very much, and I was so inspired, and I wrote so many things about it, and then I realized that the story is too long and it would kill me, and I have not the resources to make a long story like that. But still, this story had like a big influence in the design of the graphics and also in the story. And because it was an extraordinary story, I will not talk about this idea, but the story was so extraordinary. I had to find a new, like a special style that really fits into that. And what I did was that I started to experiment with collages and and found footage, and I did kind of experimental storyboard with those things that I found just on footage, and that looks like this, and it's more like it's kind of trashy, but that gave me already an idea how the environment can look and what the color mood will be and how the characters look like. And actually then I started to make a graphical fusion with outlines and with textures, which I painted myself, and to find a style which I wanted to make out of this storyboard or these collages, and then the result was that, and I thought, okay, this is really like the way I want to do that, and I experimented also how I can also animate those things with the techniques, and I have a very short introduction how I do that. There's no sound, don't worry. So so first I do the outlines, and then I divide actually the character into its body parts, which have like a different color or texture, and then I put textures, and then I make how to say, yeah, I put textures on these body parts, and I adjust them, the colors of them, and it's a very playful way of creating colors and giving them the right haptic. And so my intention was to find a kind of way that it looks a bit like painted or something, but it's all like digitally. Okay. And so, and when I started to make, and then, but as I said, I had to stop this story which I was thinking about before, or working on that, and it was very difficult to stop a story when you work such a long time on it, like 1 year. And I didn't know how to stop that because you become a bit crazy with that. And then I contacted an ex-teacher of mine from the drama department, and I showed her the story, and she confirmed, yeah, it's very long and complicated also. And we talked about also about the weak points in the film, in the story, but also about the strong points in the and then I went home and I took those strong points and I tried to make a new film, a new story, and those strong points of the story were like to be trapped and somebody takes power over you, the phenomena that we have fantasies about each other which are not appropriate with the reality, to get mixed up with reality and dream, to act blind in an affect. And with those points, I started like I did a workshop by myself, let's say, And I started to write a story about a relationship between two adult people, like a man and a woman. And I considered all that problems that can come up, like jealousness and the fear to hurt each other, lying, and to set each other under emotional pressure. And of course, in the context, you understand that this relationship is already broken apart, but it goes further. So, but when I was on the character design, I screwed just around a lot. Then very spontaneously, actually, I got this idea to transform this relationship between two adults into mother and son, and excluding the sexual things. But and I found that Sunday very uncomfortable, but also very interesting, psychological. So I was very, very inspired. And actually, I wrote all the story and within a few days, and that was done. What convinced me the most was actually also this idea to bring the images from the subconsciousness up to the surface, so they get an interactive role into the story. And these surreal scenes at the end are for me like a result or a consequence of all these claustrophobic and psychotic situations that happened before. And yeah, I did this film without any budget. That was very difficult, but I had a little bit of money because I worked before as a scriptwriter for TV. They pay well, but I didn't have really a lot of money, but I was like 5,000 euro plus in my bank account. And then I thought, okay, I have this script and everything, and okay, now I do the film and with that. And I know that I will need like 2 years with and then I thought about how to survive with 5,000 euro in 2 years. I made calculation that I have to earn money like 400 euro each month. So as a freelancer, you can do a lot of shitty jobs. So I did a lot of side jobs, like working as stagehand. I just pretended that I know how to install toilets at festivals and sports events and stuff like that. Really rough work, but the main importance for me was to do something what I do, and then I go home and I don't think about that anymore, because I couldn't make. I'm not able to do two or several creative works in one time, because they become then very. It's the danger that they become both really bad or not strong enough. So I really wanted to focus just on this idea, and yeah, I did it this way. It was very exhausting, but I made it after 2 years. It was finished. I sent it to festivals. I was quite successful at 80 festivals and won 14 awards. It was very motivating also to continue then. Yeah, and now my current project, I want to give very briefly information about that. It's called About Pigeons and Dogs, and actually I found out it's Of Pigeons and Dogs, but it doesn't matter, it's like the working title. But those film is, wait, I have to find some. Yeah, this film is about people that lose like connection to society, and they start to create their own ideas about reality, and they get lost actually in their fantasies, and they persuade in the city, like imaginations and illusions, and actually get swollen by a very hostile and dark city. So that's mainly what the story is about. It's a very dark film, and it's actually also inspired by some experience, and it's also about my hometown, Berlin. When I say that I'm from Berlin, people react like, ah, cool, it's a nice city, so cool. But actually, when you live there a long time, I don't find it so cool actually, because for me I consider that actually like the capital of lonely people, because I know a lot of people that can just get they get lost, and they I don't know, they vanish in their dark holes, and I don't know, and you never see them again, and I don't know, it's very very tough actually, and so. And the story is also. I made the story and the first version of this story I did actually already in 2005, and that was also inspired by a period of time in which I was kind of homeless myself, and I got in touch with a lot of people that actually lived on the street also, and also drug addicts and people that have like serious mental problems. And yeah, and that situation was so interesting and tough that it always gripped me ever since. And first of all, I thought I would make a feature live action film with that, but very soon I understand that I'm not able to make a live action because I'm more introverted person maybe, and I do animation. Why should I do live action? And then I developed the story more and more, or through all those years. I rewrote it like several times, and then I had the idea to do like an expressive black and white film, silent film. Then I started to transform all the story actually into images, and I excluded all the dialogues because I didn't like them so much. And then at the end, actually in 2018, when I finished The Flood, I was so inspired and so motivated that I decided finally that this will be, there's some arts music, that this will be like a animation film. And yeah, as I said, I excluded all the dialogues, and yeah, I'm working on that. It's the first film in my life that I get funding, but it's not really, how to say, it's not enough in a way. Actually, I figure out now that I'm working on that since more than 2 years. I understand. I know. I know. Like, I have the evidence that I will need probably 1 year more than calculated, which is a big problem. But I'm now about to make a co-production with Bonobo Studio in Croatia, and we will see if it works. So this will save my life, and I'm hoping that this will work. So I show you just some graphic images about it. Those are just some backgrounds. This is a character. So it's also a bit like I try to reach kind of painterly, or how to say that, painting style in a way. It's also inspired a bit by paintings which I'm doing myself. I'm trying like to play with colors and to distract everything a bit, because I don't like that where if it looks too clean and too clear. And first I do the animation very like precisely, but then I try to destroy it again, and it's a bit experimental approach. And yes, I was very afraid of this. This will to make this film, because it's 22 minutes, and it's very likely that it will just exhaust me. So it was, and I had problems to start with that. So I really wanted to do something very light and easygoing before. So I made a very short film, which is called Ding. This was for me like a like kind of action film, where you have like strong emotions and dark humor and like a weird situation. And yeah, it was for me more easygoing. And actually the idea about the film, so the synopsis is a man is being chased by a thing. But for me, I know that this film can be interpreted in a lot of ways, and I think some people are also very disturbed about it. But for me, actually, the basic idea was that this is more, I had a more psychological approach to that. So I think for me, the thing was for me also like a metaphor, which is a personification of the inner condition of this guy who is chased, and like his frustration and his fears and all these ridiculous feelings he has, and those feelings are chasing him down the street and bringing him to the edge. So that's it. And I hope it was a bit inspiring, and thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. It was interesting. And I have a question. What do you do when you write a story and you have a part of the story that you can tell in different ways? And what would you do in this situation? Maybe would you speak? Maybe you'll speak with. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. With with the friends or other professionals to listen to their opinion, or maybe you have other ways to deal with it.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm stuck with a story, I try to contact people sometimes that know situations like this. For example, especially when I wrote for the TV shows, those were sometimes things that I was not really into it, so I had no experience in that. And then I contacted people. For example, I wrote a TV series about football, and I never watched a football game in my life. So I called some people and asked them, what is it about? How are the rules and stuff? And something like that. But what I do also, the first step is that sometimes when I really have to develop a story or to invent something really fast, very helpful for me is to drive by bicycle, because when you have a moving image, and then your brain just works better, and then I'm just focusing, it's like a bit like meditation, and then I'm going into this story, and I think so much, and I write every single thought about it. I write it down. So, and then I have like a kind of idea how I could do it, and then I use that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, thanks for the talk. You talked about your process, how you write, and then you collect the ideas, and then you make up a story out of it. So I wanted to ask you more about this step and what happens between this collection of random ideas that you have. How do you make up a complete, solid story out of it? And also how do you realize that the story is finished? Because it's a lot of process, writing, rewriting, but how do you know that's it, like I have to stop now?
So when I have these fragments, I bring them together. Of course, I need like say a structure. And sometimes I have these things, and I see, of course, there are gaps in the story. But then I just try to, this is more theoretically, that I try to have to use some like typical ideas for creating some dramatic, and to put that there in. I don't know, it's very theoretically, but yeah. So like just to add something which is maybe not really like totally, let's say, authentic or something, but you have then to invent also some fictional things, then to make it round, and then to have but because at the end it's a fiction, it should be perceptible, or how to say that, to be perceived by the audience as a fiction. So it's no problem for me also to add some things that are really not totally related to myself. So I hope. And what was the second question?
How do you know that the story is ready?
I don't know, actually. Let me think. I don't know, it's a feeling thing. I can't say that so precisely. but yeah, mm, yeah, it's difficult. Sometimes I start. Sometimes I think, oh yeah, this is the story, but when I look at it again and again, then I still think it's not really a round story. There are some gaps still, but I think then it's also okay because, I believe also that I don't think that the audience is stupid. That they are when you make the film very appealing in a very appealing way, so the people can get into it, and then they are also motivated to maybe to have interpretations or something like that, and to do the film in a way that it's like entertaining. That in each scene that there is a highlight that keeps the tension. That's very important for me. So at the end, it doesn't matter if it's really like, because my films, I know they are not really like totally drama. It's not classic drama, It's more like let's say a row of excitements or something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I really enjoyed your presentation. It was very interesting. Thank you. My question is, when writing a story, which method of writing is more effective? First, when you create a setting, like world building, think of all the details, and then set characters in it so they can explain the problems of the stories facing the world, or the other way, where you firstly create a character and then build the world around them?
Yeah, for me, it's always the inner world of the people. Actually, their conditions, what they think, what they feel. So this is for me the most important thing. So they psychological aspects and their relations between the people, something like that. And actually, the environment that comes later. That can be also like an invention. Could be also be in space. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Malte. Thank you for sharing. I feel like there are two types of opinions when it comes to sharing the personal story. One opinion is that every story is unique, and maybe only you have the ultimate authority to tell it. Maybe you're the only person to tell it. And different point of view is that you don't have to overshare your personal problems or trauma with people. You don't have to make a story too personal because some people will not understand it. And your stories are very personal. So what is your point on this? Where is it okay to share a very personal story? When are you oversharing it? What do you think about it?
Yeah, it is sometimes a bit, I don't know. For me, it's important that what I say, it's like there are personal experiences but I process them in a way that it's like a fiction at the end. This is very important for me because then there's a distance, because I said because these characters, they look very different, and I'm also not telling the stories like this and this happened to me or something. So I don't think it's like at the end result. I don't consider it as really like personal, or I present it not like that, And so this is very important for me also to keep distance for me, because I find that actually a bit like people are asking a lot for this identity question or topic, and I think people really appreciate that, or I don't know. There's a tendency that people want to know what actually happened to this director, and is it really his story or something, that you really want to know that. But I think this is actually a very strange wish to know, because it's boring. What do the people care about what another person experienced? So I think it's more important just to use these to have like an authentic approach to storytelling. So at the end, I have a distance to that, for my person. I never say that so concrete, so clear like now, that there are some things behind that. But I just show the film, and the people can do whatever they like with that. That's for me. But I don't go there and say, hello, that's me, and why should I do that? Okay.
Thank you. I'll be the last one, probably. I have a question. First of all, yeah, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about whether maybe you had a situation where you really liked the story and you got so attached to it, and then at one point you realized that maybe it will not work. And if so, how do you sort of disattach from that? Like, how do you know, like, you have to work on something else?
In general, I often start with something and then I get stuck and then I don't continue. But that's also part of it because that's not a problem because there are so many ideas actually which are somewhere in the mountain of things that we start and we never finish, but they are also like part of the collection. Maybe you can use them later for something or something like that. So it's not really a big thing to have the feeling that maybe it will fail or I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malte. Thank you for coming
Thank you.
here. Let's have a 10-minute break and we will proceed with the next lecture. Luca Tot will present her masterclass on how to create a good 2D visual. So don't go far away, please.